everybody, and welcome to America's Mayor Live on Easter Monday. This is the day after Easter, as you know, and beginning of a new week. Pretty difficult week last week, I think, particularly with the death of that wonderful police officer and the tragedy to that beautiful family and the horrible, horrible way they were treated by the president. Uh, he couldn't have inflicted more pain if he tried. And I think he did try. It reminds me a lot of what he did after he got the 13 people in Afghanistan killed and stood there looking at his watch and lying to them about how his son was, he knew what they were going through because his son died in action. Now, we do know that his son died. Now, he's used that so much that he's used it up. But the worst part of it, he lies about it. Who the heck lies about their son dying except a mentally ill person? He says he died in action. He died 6 years after. They keep saying it. And they want to say he's okay. I mean, I don't know exactly what the illness is. My goodness, I'm not a psychiatrist. But I do know if a person goes around saying, even if he wasn't as public as Biden, my son died in action, and the son died 6 years after action, had nothing to do with the action, and then he repeats it each time he's told no, and he's repeated it, I don't know how many times, probably 2 or 3. Isn't there something, isn't that person mentally ill? I don't care who he is, president, not president, whatever he is. Easter, of course, is the most important, most beautiful, most significant day in the year for Christians, for all forms of Christians, for all those who believe in Jesus Christ as the way, the truth, and the life. There is no other day, no other holy day, no other day in the year nearly as important as the day that Jesus rose from the grave and conquered both death and sin. That's very basic 2,000-year-old plus Christian theology. It's a day that's treated with solemnity, and it's a day that's treated with dignity, and a day where, unlike even the usual Sunday, a Christian is supposed to devote his good deal of his day to reflecting on what that means in the more orthodox Christian traditions, and by that I mean not necessarily Russian and Greek Orthodox, some of which will be celebrating Easter several weeks from now because they operate on a different calendar. But in the more conservative Christian traditions, meaning the Orthodox, the Roman Catholics, the Episcopalians, the Anglicans, the Lutherans, the Methodists, it's a day. It's a day on which people renew their baptismal vows, renew their commitment to Jesus and to God, and to reaching God through Jesus. So it's a very significant day. How the President of the United States, who makes a very, very, very big deal about his Catholicism, as if he were Mr. Catholic, how he authorized and had his administration carry out this this transgender day of visibility on March 31st. I don't understand, except as an insult to Christianity. There's no other explanation for it. these are there's a difference of agreement of massive moral separation here about these acts, particularly when we start getting to the as we start getting to the idea of mutilating your body, changing your sex, a real feeling that a tremendous amount of money is being put into getting children to doubt their sexuality at a time in which people, young people, are the most suggestible. There's a real sense that this is not just isolated, but it's Marxist. It's inspired by one of the ways in which they can deteriorate America's love of country, love of nationality, which of course is articulated by people like Soros, even to some extent Obama, who I once said, didn't love America. I would now say there are real signs that he hates America. And his wife certainly was very clear about that. So, I mean, this is beyond. Honestly, when I heard it, I couldn't believe it. The name of this thing is Transgender Day of Visibility. And they celebrated it yesterday, making everything pink. And it isn't even like pink. It's like a dirty pink, orange. I mean, the colors are like washed out colors. Nothing bright and beautiful about them. Kind of fading colors. Fading for a fading society. And of course, they wouldn't do anything about this. Now, if you thought that was it, you're mistaken. The first stepmother in chief, the doctor first stepmother in chief, Dr. Jill Biden. Dr. Jill Biden issued a directive, like a dictate, like Joe does when he does those directives. She did a dictate from the First Lady's office, and the dictate said there will be no religious scribbling of any kind on the Easter eggs. Any child caught scribbling anything religious on those Easter eggs will pay for it. Very, very seriously. Dr. Jill will take care of her. And I will do what I can to traumatize her the way I did with that so-called granddaughter that I didn't recognize for 5 years. Remember, if it put out all the Christmas, I leave that little one off. You know that had hurt her. Part in the movie could be played. Remember Edith Hamilton? You probably don't remember Edith Hamilton. She was the Wicked Witch in The Wizard of Oz. Great part for her if the woman was still alive, as Dr. Jill Biden, who is enforcer of no religious scribbling by children. There will be no religious scribbling by children, and certainly no crosses in the White House. Today is the Transgender Day. Today is a day of mutilation. That's what it feels like. I swear it feels like we are in a nut house. The Bidens have us in a nut house. Now, there's Transgender Day of Remembrance, Transgender Awareness Week, Trans Awareness Month, Transparent Day, International Day Against Homophobia, Biphobia, and Transphobia, Pride Month, LGBT plus History Month, LGBT no plus Health Awareness Month, International Day of Pink, Day of Silence, Lesbian Visibility Week, Agender Pride Day, Harvey Milk Day, Pansexual and Pan-Romantic Awareness Day, Stonewall Day, International LGBTQ Day, International Non-Binary People Day, International Drag Day, Bisexual Awareness Day, Celebrate Bisexual Day, International Lesbian Day, National Coming Out Day, Gender Fluid Visibility Day, International Pronoun Day, Spirit Day, Intersex Awareness Day, and Intersex Day of Remembrance. And we need another one. Oh, you want to know where I was finding those? Would you like me to tell you where I find those? I stole those from Fox. From Fox. They had them on Fox. I looked over in the corner, I saw them, and I said, I want to give you a feeling for how Dr. Jill manages all these days. She is a very, very busy commissar. Very busy commissar. Now, the real German, how can be Russian too? Or anything. What? Communist accent. It's a communist accent. It's like Klaus Schwab. Klaus Schwab. So now, these guys don't even know this story. Dr. Jill was largely successful in frightening the poor children into not making any religious eggs. Several of the children did make eggs, and their parents crushed the eggs in the lawn, and they were found later in the day, but the kids were gone with little, how children like little crosses like that, like a little cross, like a little cross like that. So these have been all turned over. All these little crosses have been turned over to the J6 investigatory committee, which has spent more money than any investigatory committee in the history of the world to find those people who engaged in the only insurrection in history where no gun was produced. And they're going to try to add people, as many as possible, to the group that are in the Virginia Gulag, where they have these J6 people, several of whom were fed last Easter and are said to be getting another meal this Easter. So the kids will be okay. They'll get kids that are arrested for having made signs like this. Right now, they're going through, the FBI is going through every child within 20 miles of the White House. And over the course of the next month, they are all going to be arrested. They will be arrested with the group that now is calming down on the J6 arrest. They have to do something. I mean, they have all those stormtrooper outfits. What are they going to do with them, right? They don't use them for real criminals. They got most of the Trump people already. I mean, now they're taking people in that were there on January 4th and 5th on the theory that they must have stayed over, that they were close enough in time and they wanted to stay over. And because they wanted to stay over, they committed a crime. Because several people were heard saying they regretted not staying over. They're checking those out now. But these kids, I mean, look, it isn't just a few of these that were found on the lawn. There have been a large number that have been reported to the first stepmother's little cross like that. Can you imagine? I bet their parents go to Latin Mass. I bet. Well, they were already under investigation. Or maybe they protest abortions and they're going to be sentenced to like 40 or 50 years in jail. They don't hit anybody or hurt anybody, just like the Jason, Meanwhile, most of them are reporting it as an attack on St. Patrick's on Easter Sunday. I believe it was the Easter Vigil on Saturday night. I think the attack was on Saturday night. It was. It was on Saturday night, and it was at 9 p.m. The Catholic Church which is not peculiar to the Catholic Church. The Greek and the Orthodox churches also, when they have Easter, have very, very lengthy vigil services that last, believe it or not, 3 hours. The Catholic one is about 2 hours at least before midnight, and then at about an hour and a half after midnight. The Greek service is about 2 hours before, maybe 2.5, and about 3 hours after. So you're talking long service. During that service, at some point, Matthew Menzies, John Renzendahl, and Gregory Schwedock ran up to the, looks to me like the side altar, and trying to grab either altar cloths or vestments away from the priest, because during the vigil service there are changes in vestments, and there are numerous different religious ceremonies that take place. They bless all the holy water in the church. Like if you go into the church after Good Friday and before the Easter Vigil, there's no holy water in the church. Holy water is blessed at the Easter Vigil. The candles are all dark. The first candle they light is the Paschal candle. I don't know, do they still? Because when I went to the funeral on Saturday, which was Holy Saturday, the statues of the saints were not covered. So do they still cover the statue of the saints on Holy Saturday? Is anyone listening? No one's listening. So I'm going to ask if somebody would call my friend Alan for me while we take a short break, because I'm going to find out if we still cover the saints on Good Friday to Holy Saturday, because in the St. Rose of Lima church that we went to, they were not covered. Also, the officer Diller did not have a mass. He had a funeral service. It ended with the eulogies, and it did not go into the sacrificial Eucharist service, because you're not allowed to give the Eucharist on Holy Saturday. And I thought, and I think I'm incorrect.
We can ask the audience too, Mayor.
I thought there was an exception made for that in the case of funeral masses, because I seem to have gone to another one for a police officer in Staten Island years ago. But now that I think back, I think that also was a service rather than a mass, because it was Holy Saturday. I guess they would have had the option, should they have asked for it, to delay the funeral to Monday, and then they could have had a funeral mass on Monday. But they took the option of having it on Holy Saturday, which of course is a very holy and beautiful day to have it. So why don't we take a short break, and we're going to see what they used to call that on that game? You can get one life.
Phone a friend.
And they call it a phone a friend. A lifeline.
Phone a friend.
We're going to do this. First time I had to do this, right?
Yeah, we've never done this.
But I think I'm going to tell you what I think the answer is. I think the answer is that number one, that you cannot have communion on Holy Saturday, no matter what. No exception for a funeral mass. And I think they took up the covering of the statues because of the funeral mass. That's what I think. I think they still do it. But let's find out. That I'm not sure of. And I can't remember last year I went to mass I went to some of the Good Friday stations of the cross service. Gosh, I thought they were covered. But okay, good. We'll see. We'll find out. We'll be back very shortly. The foundation delivers on its promise to do good and never forget the sacrifices America's greatest heroes have made for us. Heroes who risked their lives to keep our communities and our country safe. Heroes like United States Marine Corps Captain and pilot John Jeremy Sachs. Captain Sachs sustained fatal injuries when his military aircraft crashed during training, killing him and 5 other service members. He's remembered by loved ones as courageous, brilliant, and devoted to his career, family, and friends. John is survived by his wife, Amber, who gave birth to their second daughter 3 months after his death. Tunnel to Towers paid the mortgage on the family home for Amber and their 2 daughters. The foundation has helped over 1,000 military and first responder families navigate the worst of times by removing the burden of a mortgage payment. Our nation's heroes and their families need your help now more than ever. Donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers at T2T.org. T2T.org. That's T, the number 2T.org. T2T.org. Please donate now. Welcome back to America's Mayor Live. This is the Theology Channel, brought to you by. I have the answer from Mike, not my friend who's a Monsignor, and he says they still and the official language, which I don't, is called veiling the statues. They still veil the statues between Holy Thursday when they remove the Eucharist. And Mike is quite right. They don't have Mass on Holy Saturday or Good Friday. The communion they give out on Good Friday is communion left over from Holy Thursday. On Holy Saturday, they give out no communion until the Easter Vigil Mass that night, which is technically a Easter Mass. So Saturday is not only no Mass, but no communion. Now, I assume that they remove the veiling for purposes of the funeral, and they probably put them back on for purposes of the Easter Vigil, which in their church was going to take. Some of these churches do it like at 6 o'clock now. They used to always do it when I did it, and I remember serving it. Like you had to be there like at 8 o'clock or 8:15. Spent the whole night there. And for a kid, it was kind of exciting because you got to bed at like 2 a.m. or something. Now, that's not exactly the way kids nowadays like to spend their life serving a Mass, but it was kind of fun. It was kind of fun. You had a lot of help, too. Like they have lots of priests and altar boys running around. They do a bunch of things. They renew the baptismal vows. They bless the water. They bless the Paschal candles. They baptize new Christians. They do that at Easter, but they have them recite stuff because you recite your baptismal vows on Christmas. Do you have any pictures from the? I should tell you, and Ted, I'm going to ask you to participate in this for a moment because you were there, and in some ways you got a better look at it than I did. Because I walked in fairly early, maybe at the time I walked in, and when we first got there, we went with Bernie Carrick, myself, Dr. Maria, and Ted. And we came, believe it or not, if you're watching the show, you'll know that we came from Georgia. And we took an early morning plane about 5 a.m, and we went to Republic Airstrip, which used to be Republic. And I found the airport for them. They're going to go all the way out to Iceland because I used to live there. And they were going to go to Iceland. I said, no, let's go to Republic because my friend Alan used to live right near there in Farmingdale. And I knew the parish because tragically, I know almost all the parishes in the New York area because of September 11th. Of the 100 funerals I went to before September 11th for my firefighters, police officers, teachers, sanitation workers, rescue workers, corrections officers, And then, of course, I don't count the numbers after that. But it meant, and I should say, and I don't mean this in a way to be, exclusive or something, but the overwhelming majority are Catholic. So I would say that of the 100 that I lost during the line of duty, probably 80 were Catholic ceremonies. I would say the same thing for September 11th, maybe 75 to 80% were Catholic ceremonies. So I knew the Mass really well, studied it academically even. I was an altar boy. But after that, my goodness, I have it memorized now. And I've come to love it more and more for that reason. And I've become more religious in both senses, more spiritual and more religious. So remember, the thing I was going to ask you was what Bernie and I couldn't get was a good number. Now, how did I get the numbers for ours, Mike? I actually got it from the helicopters, because they actually have, because they do it for us for possible riots and parades. They actually have a formula for roughly how many people can fit on such and such a block. I mean, they'll have the dimensions of the block, and they'll estimate it out as full, full up to the sidewalks, full including the sidewalks. I mean, they get pretty particular about it, and they'll tell you, oh, well, on this block there's 5,000, on that block there's 6,000, on this block there's 4,000, and then they'll add it up. And when it's at St. Patrick's, I almost always go across the street to St. Patrick's before I join the lineup, or even after they line up, and go look at it, just so I can see for myself. And having been there so often, I can get a pretty good idea of how many were there. But I didn't know this church or the block. The line ultimately was endless. I looked to my left, I couldn't see the end of the line. I looked to my right, I couldn't see the end of the line. They said 10,000. I think more.
Well, Mayor, they said basically police departments as far as Miami to New Hampshire,
Yeah,
from the East Coast came, New Mexico,
California.
So all over the country came in. Who knows how many people were there?
Yeah.
I mean, that's,
Yeah, and I don't know if they're as used to New York at doing those estimates of. I don't know if they had meaning Nassau County, had their aerial people doing that kind of analysis. But are there any numbers given out, Ted?
I heard as many as 15,000.
Yeah, I think that sounds more correct than 10.
Yeah.
Trying to bring up some drone, and there's some aerial footage that I'm trying to bring up.
When I was going to work, when I was going to Rikers in the morning, unfortunately I couldn't get off for the funeral. I saw just caravans of police cars going towards Long Island. So, I mean, it had to be at least 15 to 20,000 people there, at least. I mean,
I should tell you that depending on the person, right, this can be very comforting for the family.
Mm-hmm.
Oh gosh, nothing takes the pain away. I said comforting. I know President Trump going there was, as my mother used to say, just what the doctor ordered. And it took away some of the insult of Biden not even bothering to call them, and actually calling Adams, and very insensitive. I mean, they were cordial to Mayor Adams, but they threw Governor Hochul out. And the difference between Adams and Hochul in terms of culpability, about this much. I mean, Adams has spoken up more about it than Hochul, but he hasn't done anything more. And in some ways, he was in the stronger position, strangely, to do something about it. Now, let me tell you what. You would say, well, that's kind of strange. The governor is in a stronger position to convince the majority leader of the Senate and the Speaker of the Assembly. Now, you remember the Speaker of the Assembly is the guy we played the tape of yesterday, Friday and Thursday. Now, he is a one of two things. He is either a very, very dedicated Marxist with a very, very weird Marxist perception of the world, or he is the dumbest human being on earth, except for Joe Biden. Because I'm not going to play it again. I can't stand listening to him. But here's what he said. He said that everyone knows that extra penalties do not deter crime. Now, everyone knows just the opposite. The reality is, it is not even logical to say that. If you want to debate with me, and you're wrong to do it, but go ahead. If you want to debate with me, the mere fact that this guy goes to prison doesn't stop that guy from committing a crime. You can debate that with me. And the real answer is, if this guy goes to prison, it doesn't stop every one of these guys from doing it, but it stops a certain percentage. It stops a certain percentage of them. Okay? But let's put that aside. Here's where the man is either a confirmed Marxist, a malicious liar, or working with the very, very deficient brain cells of Joe Biden. There's two types. There are two types. I wish, oh gosh, I should have got out my old criminal law 101 textbook where they describe the purposes of punishment. Deterrence. Then they divide it into two. General and particular. General is the one we're talking about, what I just said. You put somebody, look at this Bankman-Fried, right? Bankman-Fried looks like he might get 20 years. Hopefully that will scare the living daylights out of future Bankman-Frieds because he looks like a bit of a sissy boy. Other Bankman-Frieds from doing it. That's general deterrence, and it will. Will it deter every Bankman-Fried out of doing it? No, but you'll start seeing the crime come down with a good sentence like that. However, here's what it does do. It does deter Bankman-Fried from doing it, right? He can't do it while he's in prison. Better case. Guy is a home invader. That's how he makes his money. He does 2-3 a day, makes 10 grand a day that way. He's good at it. He knows when the people aren't home. He knows when they go on vacation. He knows when the neighborhood isn't too busy. This is the way they make their living. Nobody said they're stupid. They're crooked. So when he's out, he can be doing 3, 4, 5 of these per day. Here's what happens when you put him in prison. He can't do them. Or let's make it really simple. If Garcia, the creep that shot and killed Officer Diller, were in probably about 40 other states with that set of crimes, he wouldn't have been able to kill Officer Diller because he'd be in prison as a career criminal. If I were the mayor, he'd be in prison as a career criminal. You can't commit the crime while you can't shoot Officer Diller if you're behind bars. And that is the unbelievably dangerous situation that for an intelligent person is so obvious that I feel like these people are accessories to murder. I think Carl Hastie is an accessory to murder. And if I were the mayor, I would go explain to him immediately the effect of what he was doing as someone who knows far more about law enforcement and human behavior than he does. And as somebody older and wiser. And if he agreed with me, maybe he'd change the law. If he didn't, I would take my Comstat program. I put a teeny little section in there for Carl Hastie. And every week I'd publish the people that he was responsible for killing. And I'd put special emphasis on the people in his district who were killed, raped, beaten, or robbed. I'd also do a computation of how much money was stolen out of his district by people who were released on bail. And at the end of the week, I would send it around to everybody in his district. And then every month, I'd have a rally there. Get rid of Hasty, get rid of Hasty. 20 people dead because of Hasty. Here are their names. I'd see if some of the families would help with me. In other words, I'd fight to save the lives of my citizens instead of do what Adams and Hochul do, which is just talk, 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 with no guts to do a damn thing about it. This is a damn Democratic state. Governor, both houses in the assembly. New York City is a damn communist city. It's so Democrat. The one thing they should be able, they have no excuse for not getting something done. This isn't the Republican this blocking the Democrat that. They're all Democrats. And wherever you have all Democrats, you have all crime, all around America. Get the point? How stupid can people be to vote for him? Let's see. Because, man, the chickens are coming home to roost now. You got the border overwhelmed. We got people, all those people that stormed the border and beat up National Guardsmen are free. They did a lot more damage than the January 6th people did. They actually invaded. I didn't see them invited in. I saw a lot of January 6th people where the police held the door for them, and they're sitting in jail. Why aren't they in jail why aren't they put in the gulag like the January 6th people? They're all free. The judge has freed every single one of them, and they're illegals to start with. Some of those January 6th people, they had to be in a state of confusion. The cops are standing there going like this. They were in no state of confusion. They were cutting the wire. And they're not even Americans. And the Americans are held for 2 years without a trial. Like we're back with the Japanese internment. I don't know what Biden has to do to prove to you that are brainwashed Democrats, if you do listen, that he's not a Democrat. He's a fascist. He's destroyed our justice system, single-handedly crushed it, both with regard to the way it treats his enemies, including yours truly, and the way it treats his friends and his son and him. They are master, repeat criminals at very, very high levels, millions. They're also traitors to the United States. They do business with China. They do favors for China. The favors can't be explained by anything else than all the money he's gotten from them. They're so damn irrational. So Governor Hochul, of course, let's just set the record straight. Governor Hochul, originally it was reported, was asked to leave the wake. Governor Hochul left and did what she usually does. She lied and said that she decided to leave the wake. There are so many witnesses. You'd love to have a trial. But yes, she was asked to leave by multiple people, including, and I got this directly from the brother of Mrs. Diller. He asked her to leave. So the governor is just like she's lying about the Buffalo Stadium, where she and her husband are trying to make a bundle, if they haven't made a bundle already, just like she lied about the 300,000 extra that she charged for PPP tests and took that money for her campaign. Albany is right now suffering from a stench. Absolutely serious. You know what it is, don't you? And it isn't just Hochul. It's the whole damn group of them. We'd have to work the other way around to find the good ones. We'd find some good ones, but wouldn't be easy. No budget on time. Lobbyists run the place. These two dictators run it. It's really just terrible.
Well, Mayor, we have some of the beautiful words of the widow. Stephanie, should we play a little bit of that?
I do want the beautiful words, but I also want the challenging words in which she tells them all what miserably useless public officials they are, and how in many ways they're accessories to murder. I would like to hear that part.
I would like to hear that.
It's the part I really want to hear.
Let's see if we got that part.
I'm words. We just got a few more months to change this so that we can save our country. Otherwise, this is going to happen all the time.
How long I have to wait to see Jonathan again. When the doors to heaven open for me one day, I hope to see Jonathan standing there looking at me just like he did on our wedding day. My husband died a hero, but he also lived as one. Our world will never be the same, but I know I speak for everyone when I say I could not be more proud of him. It's been 2 years and 2 months since Detective Rivera and Detective Mora made the ultimate sacrifice, just like my husband, Jonathan Diller. Dominique Rivera stood in front of all the elected officials present today pleading for change. That change never came, and now my son will grow up without his father, I will grow old without my husband, and his parents have to say goodbye to their child. How many more police officers and how many more families need to make the ultimate sacrifice before we start protecting them? I don't wish this kind of pain on anyone. Jonathan lived his life doing good for people, and it's now time for people to do good for all the officers he represents.
How many more police officers and how many families need to make the ultimate sacrifice before we start protecting them? That means you, Governor Hochul, you, Mayor Adams, you, Carl, you can't deter crime, Hasty. I don't wish this kind of pain on anyone. Jonathan lived his life doing good for people. It's now time for people to do good for all the offices he represents, like disassociating themselves with pigs in a blanket, fry them like bacon, Black Lives Matter, which are the people that Biden and Epstein's a good friend and the guy who gives money in the billions in cash to Iranian terrorists who was on Thursday night. Yeah, I'm talking, of course, about Bill, who sold the Lincoln bedroom Clinton. And I'm talking about Obama, who actually put hundreds of millions of cash into the hands of terrorists who killed Americans. That's the kind of people that Biden hangs around with. You going to get rid of them? You're going to get rid of them so that we can stop having to go to wakes like this? It doesn't mean it won't happen, but it won't happen anywhere near as much. And when it does happen, it'll be used as a real example not to do it again. What about executing this guy, huh? Do you know how many? Do you have any idea, since Cuomo became governor, how many cop killers? We're getting into now cop killers who killed when I was the mayor. I don't think they've gotten one yet, because when they do, this guy's going to go crazy. It's all Cuomo's legislation. As I told you, if I were mayor, this guy'd be in jail, the kid would be alive. Now, I think if Bloomberg were the mayor, same thing. Can't be sure, but I think so. But you agree, right?
Agree with you, man.
And in about 40 states, he'd definitely be alive. I mean, this guy had the unfortunate of being in the state that cares about criminals much more than innocent people. largely because I think the Democrats depend on their vote to get elected. Who the hell's going to vote for them but criminals? I mean, it's mind-boggling what they get away with. And then we have on the same weekend we have this tremendous breakdown in morals. Right? We've got the first stepmother telling children they can't put religious symbols on eggs at Easter time. I'd like to know, did she ever read that part of the First Amendment that says the government protects us in the free exercise of our religion? That means that I can write religious symbols where I want to, particularly if it's my property, you know. And I'd be kind of confused if I didn't write some kind of religious thing on an Easter egg hunt. Easter? It's really not celebrating bunny rabbits, Dr. Jill. The FDNY, one of their companies was required to remove a flag, Mike, that is in memory of September 11, because some people in the community said it was a fascist symbol.
Yeah. So, Mayor, I actually know all these men personally.
What the hell is this?
So these brave men of 11 Truck in the Lower East Side. I know these guys personally. I played hockey with them. They're a bunch of great guys.
I know 11 Truck.
Yes.
I visited it.
28 and 11.
I think President Bush visited that company.
So they,
sure.
Yeah, they're a bunch of great guys. They were approached by an individual who is obviously a liberal,
and he has losses on September 11th.
Yes, they had this man came up to him who had the story was that it was a politician that was false. It was a man with political connections. He came up to them when they were outside, and he said he already had his response ready. He asked what was that flag. And they said, this is for our brothers who died in 9/11 and for other firefighters around the country.
What did it have? It had one red line?
One red line. It was a subdued American flag that was gray and black. And it had one red line, like the police one.
Blue and white.
Right.
And this had a red line for
firefighters. Right.
Fire. Yeah.
Correct. So they said this is for our brothers and sisters who died in the line of duty around the country and in 9/11, whatever. So the guy said, well, this looks like the police flag that represents racism and fascism. So you guys must be racist and fascist. And then the firefighter that I know, he said, all right, we're going to go inside now. We're good. And the guy kept talking and talking and talking. So you
guys are much more civilized than the firefighters I remember.
So the guy kept talking, and then he called this politician, whoever it was. No one knows who it was. A division chief came. He said, listen, guys, I really don't want to do this, but please take the flag off the rig. I'm sorry. I really don't want to do this. So 2 hours later, chief of department, Chief Hodgins, he actually got his start at 11 Truck. He called the house. And this was a week ago. This story's old. The Post got yeah, this is old.
That's good.
Yeah, he called the house because Chief Hodgins got his start at 11 Truck. He said, put that flag back on the rig and never take that flag off again. So that flag is never, ever coming off the rig. And, you know, that's it. That's the final word.
We should go see it tomorrow, Ted.
Yeah. I'd like
It's on the Lower East Side. Yeah.
Let's go see it.
11 Truck. Yeah. I'll send you the address and I'll let them know you're coming, Mayor. I'll let them know.
Because it says that the politician is a dues-paying member of the Democrat Socialists of America.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense then. Yeah, those people.
Democratic Manhattan Councilwoman Carlina Rivera. That's who it is.
That's right on brand for her.
That was a fascist symbol.
Yeah. Well,
and they sent a March 19 email to the FDNY.
Right.
And she is a former dues-paying member of the Democrat Socialists of America. She voted to defund the police of $1 billion.
Of course she did.
So she has an awful lot of blood on her hands.
Mm-hmm.
And she spends most of her career ripping cops. And this is because the firefighters look too much like the cops?
No, she just thinks that the flag is too similar to the Blue Line flag.
I mean, she probably supports burning the flag.
Correct. The American flag, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what she doesn't know is
Not the pink, pinky, whatever flag.
what she doesn't realize is that the FDNY doesn't care, like NYPD, what color, race, creed you are. If you're burning in a building, if
Yeah, I
you call
never-
911, we'll come save you. We don't
Gosh,
care.
I've
We don't care.
I've been in an awful lot of fires, and I never remember asking for like a diversity breakdown.
Correct.
Oh, I'm sorry, we already saved
Yeah.
too many white people. We're not going in.
That-
But we always saved too many. Do you know we saved 6 black people, only 1 white person last night?
Right.
Tonight we got to save a couple of brown people. Sorry, black people, you got to burn. We're going to go over there where the brown people are.
Right.
Because there are, let's see now, there are 24% black people in the city. That means we can only save 24% black people. And these numbers are a little up. There are 30% brown people. So we'll save 30% brown people, but we're already at 60% brown people. So we're going to have to let brown people die for a while. And, you know.
Well, man, I guess she forgot on 9/11 that 343 of my brothers got disintegrated when they went to the towers. They didn't care what color those people are. They didn't care.
I don't think to this day I know the breakdown.
They didn't care.
The races of the people that died there.
Yeah.
I don't think if it's been printed, I probably thought it was a desecration to print it and just threw it in the garbage. I have no idea how many whites, blacks, pinks, greens, yellows, or whatever. I mean, innocent people died.
Well, while we're on the subject of FDNY, actually, Mary, remember when they chanted Trump at Letitia James a couple weeks ago?
Yeah, that was great.
So now a federal judge is saying that was racist, and they want the FDNY to prosecute these members. They're trying to do a federal lawsuit against the FDNY. I read it in the Daily News today.
The fact that she's a corrupt,
yes,
useless, dumb attorney general.
Yeah, they're saying the members that chanted Trump are racist, white supremacists, and they want them prosecuted. A federal judge is actually looking into this case and wants the FDNY to take action.
Hitler, weren't they racist? Anti-Italian?
Listen, this is what they want.
I'm not even German. He called me Hitler.
This is what they want, Mayor.
The one that called me Mussolini, I guess it was okay.
Well, you are Italian.
Yeah, I am Italian. I mean, after all, I should take that.
Yeah, you could take that one.
But why can't I say that the ones that called me Hitler were anti-white or anti-Italian?
The First Amendment is out the window in this country now, Mayor.
They used to boo me. I never got any protection like that.
You should have sued them. Should have said they were racist.
I was standing for an hour and a half. I was standing next to the worst attorney general in the history of the state, and maybe the worst attorney general in history. Very hard for me because I value being a lawyer very, very highly. And as I watch the Bar Association of my city, the woke, Marxist, Democrat-oriented, Trump-hating Bar Association of my city operate and do nothing for the people who are tortured for representing Trump and making a phony case against me, I'm sort of proud that I'm suspended. But you think that's me looking at her funny? I'm going to tell you what I was doing. You have no idea what I was doing. I know what I was doing. I was trying to figure out the line, you jerks. I wasn't looking at her. I'm sorry. Now she's in the way, but I'm trying to figure out. Remember I told you, you might actually, if you go back and you get the entire footage of that, you'll see the 2 or 3 times I broke out of the formation and I walked up in front where the guys were that were, in charge. And I looked over this way and I looked over that way because I was extremely curious as to how many. What I wanted to see, Ted, was, where we came in?
Yeah.
I wanted to see how much more of that was filled in.
Yeah, I saw you. We walked over.
But that's what I was looking for. Mm-hmm. And there I was taking a last minute look at it. Which one is that?
This is just some B-roll.
Yeah.
Mayor, on a scale of 1 to 10.
You are talking to Commissioner Bertie Carrick. Yeah, and there's Sid Rosenberg on the morning show.
I'm talking to Sid, yeah. Oh, there he is. Yeah, Sid.
There's Dr. Maria, who will play that again.
Mayor, on a scale of 1 to 10, how pissed off do you think Letitia James was
Peter King
standing next to you, like on a scale of 1 to 10?
I don't think that was. I think it was she was turned down for a speaking role.
Oh yeah, that's it.
They turned her down for a speaking role.
Was Sid
King?
What did Sid whisper in your ear?
My friend,
how great he is on the radio.
No, come on.
All right, just making sure.
Come on, give the guy credit. He came.
Very nice to see Sid
Give
there.
him credit. There's Dr. Maria.
Curtis was there.
There's Bernie. You could see Bernie was in a good mood. Huh?
Right, yeah.
Yeah, lucky nobody said anything nasty to Bernie. They'd have been laid
You
out.
can never tell what Bernie's weird. It's either like he looks like he wants to kill you, or he's
Or he's
just
friendly.
or he's friendly. Yeah,
Yeah, right there, he looks like he wants to kill you. I think I don't want to. I don't want to say who I think he wanted to kill. But I think you can do a little imagination. You get an idea who Bernie wanted to kill.
Bernie's very
The-
scary.
Bernie is, if he wants to kill you, he will.
Yeah, like, that's,
He's a tough guy, boy. I'll tell you. No fooling around about Bernie. So the Third Circuit, which is in that contains the crooked city of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, has 2-1 ruled that that you got to sign an absentee ballot. Oh my God, that's so unfair. You actually have to sign it. You might even have to show identification. Come on, they're not going to let you show it. How can they cheat in Philadelphia if they let you show identification? How can the dead people vote? This is really this is discrimination. This is discrimination against people. It destroys years of learning how to fix an election. It destroys years of learning how to fix an election. The Third Circuit Court of Appeals ruled 2-1. I'm sure the one is from the Democratic machine, saying that that there's no such thing as a, they said that all the errors on the thousands and hundreds of thousands of ballots in Pennsylvania that would have turned the election from the Democratic crooked upper court of Pennsylvania ruled that they were non-material errors or omissions. They also ruled the following, and tell me if this isn't an indication of their thoroughgoing corruption. The law of Pennsylvania says that an inspector for both candidates or either party has to be present when the ballots are counted. So our representatives, meaning Republican, were present, but they were placed several football fields away from the ballot and put in pens like cows. During the course of the counting, for 4 or 5 days, hundreds of thousands of ballots were counted, and they never got to see one. Not a single piece of paper. After they got a court order ordering that they be allowed to get next to the ballot, the sheriff in Philadelphia told them he wasn't going to execute it because the sheriff must have known what the crooks were going to do. They went to the upper court and they got it reversed. Because one judge, the only one that was honest, when she got a chance to look at it, said, well, wait a second. Present can't mean that you just sit in the room and read a book or you're a potted plant. If you are an inspector and you're present during the counting of votes, present means that you have an opportunity to observe. Logical? We agree so far? Well, the crooked court of the crooked Supreme Court of Pennsylvania, made up all Democrats, 5-2, voted like 5-2. That present means you can sleep during the thing. You can take a nap. You can spend your time in the bathroom as long as you're in the same room. You can be a potted plant, but it has nothing to do with looking at the ballots. And of course, the Supreme Court didn't take the case. I don't want to touch it. I don't want to touch it. Justice Roberts didn't want to. I don't want to touch it. I don't want to touch it. We don't want to be controversial. We don't want to be controversial. I don't want to be controversial. That is a completely dishonest, dishonorable decision for which every one of those judges who put their name on that, they should have their name stricken as judges for the Court of Appeals of any place. They don't deserve to be American judges. I can think of some courts they could have sat on, but most of them have funny accents. And that decision is ridiculous. Eventually, it gets reversed 2 years later when it's too late. And now this one here is also ridiculous. This one says that if you don't sign a ballot, it's okay. You don't have to sign it. Got to count it anyway. What? So the Third Circuit, now the federal court has ruled 2-1 that a ballot like that is invalid. Now it's that will remain the law unless one of two things happens. They take it up to the entire Third Circuit, which again is a federal court now, not as dominated by the crooked Pennsylvania, and that includes, from governor on down, the crooked Pennsylvania court. So it's a federal court. They can take it en banc, which means the entire court could consider it. So the entire Court of Appeals could reverse that 2-1 decision, or the Supreme Court could take it. But if they leave it that way, we will have made a real inroad in the state that I'm most worried about. And I'm not worried about winning Pennsylvania. I believe that Trump is a particularly strong candidate in Pennsylvania, particularly with the trade issue. I do not believe that abortion is the major negative issue it is in other states. Remember, the Democratic Senator Casey was pro-life. That's pretty rare. It means that the abortion issue, not that it isn't a big issue, but it isn't the same wedge issue that it is elsewhere. It's also a state with two demonstrated groups of people suffering from Democrat policy: the steel workers and the auto workers, who are in auto workers are enraged right now. And the auto workers union, I know, has supported Biden. That's almost worse. The auto workers union used to be 1.5 million. It's now 300,000. Get the point? You're almost better having them not support you, because all those other auto workers have left the union because they've been making deals with the Democrats to get rid of their jobs to China for years, so that the heads of the unions get fat. You ever wonder why they were so fat? Lots of money, lots of drinking, lots of cigars, and who knows what else. The union movement is down to, I think, is it below 10%?
That's my
10%, 12%?
Yeah, very low. Because my dad used to say they used to fight for worthy causes, like a 40-hour work week, weekends, time, actual living wage. Now they're protecting the lazy bums, most of these things.
You go back to the 20s and the 30s and the 40s. You got unions that were real, but you do have unions that from the very beginning, two groups came in and really started to ruin them: the Communist Party and the Mafia. So you take both, infiltrating different unions, and it doesn't leave you too many that weren't infiltrated. For example, the Teamsters Union.
It's going to be of the Teamsters.
Were the creature of the Mafia.
I was going to say, that's why they killed him. He was too greedy.
Well, the Longshoremen.
Yeah.
Longshoremen is a gigantic union. It's all over the country.
Mafia?
No, the Mafia controlled it, sure.
There is no Mafia. What are you talking
Ever see On the Waterfront?
No.
Oh, it's a great movie about.
I've heard you talk about.
It's a great movie that gives you an idea of the control. And the accident that took place the other night is a bit of a function of all of that, because that ship, had the Mafia not exerted its influence back in the 50s and 60s when they invented container shipping, that ship would have gone into the port of New York, not into the port. There was really no port of Baltimore. The port of New York was gigantic, 1 million workers. The port of New York built half to 3/4 of the vessels that were used to fight in the Second World War, at the Brooklyn Navy Yard mostly. What happened was, when the container ships came in, all of the ports bought the appropriate equipment to unload the containers, so that you never had to unload you unloaded the ship automatically. So the ship comes in, it's designated for a particular group of trucks, or it's designated for a particular train, and the container ship is automatically unloaded and programmed by the workers to do so. And that cut the number of workers, I can't tell you exactly, but maybe by 2/3. Place like Baltimore immediately built up all the containers to take the ships. Place like New York first fought it because the union was so powerful, the ILO, powerful like they kill you, powerful. And then eventually agreed. But how about this? They let them build the containers, not that many, because you don't see that many containers in New York except you go to Staten Island. But they built the containers, but you were required to hire the same number of men, whether you had the container or not. So let's say it took 800 men to, I'm just picking a number, 800 men to unload a ship of 3 football fields. And now with the container, it takes only 200 men. You had to hire the additional amount of men who would sit around and, make sure that it all looked good. It's called feather bedding. It's a particular abuse. I had that in my hospitals. I had hospitals that used to have 1,100 beds occupied that had only 400 beds occupied, but we had the staff for 1,100 because most of the staff were political hacks that were patronage payoffs to the Democratic congressmen. So in New York, most congressmen have very little patronage compared to a mayor, right? So a mayor or a governor, county executive, as a mayor of New York, I had 200 and something thousand jobs, not all of them mine to direct, but the hospital was a special corporation and I could have a lot to say about who was there. So the mayors turned it over to the congressmen, turned over some of their unnecessary patronage to the crooked congressmen in order to get their votes. So Charlie Rangel owned Harlem Hospital. The mayor couldn't tell Harlem Hospital what to do. Charlie ran it. All his people were there. Half his people, basically their job was to read the Daily News every day. They were taking care of empty beds. I went through the hospitals. I had hundreds of people taking care of empty beds. They were nice and clean. The beds were real clean, but nobody in them. So I eventually fired them all, which is what made me so popular.
That's what Trump talks about when he talks about waste, fraud, and abuse. He talked about that.
Just bullshit about waste, fraud, and abuse. I actually did it.
They did. Yeah.
I actually did. I got rid of it. That's why I ended up with a surplus. I mean, yeah. That's why I got the number of people on welfare down from 1.2 million to 500,000. I put them to work. Yeah. Oh, there's Charlie. Charlie is worth something like 22 million, never having a job other than on the government payroll. It's interesting how you do that. You should write a book on how you do that.
They're all in that business, aren't they?
You think he's alone? Nah. You're also looking at the reason why Harlem never went anywhere for years, because people like him and Dinkins and Percy Sutton and took all the money intended for Harlem for themselves. Because if you ever had taken all the money intended for Harlem and given it to Harlem, Harlem would be the Riviera, because that's the amount of money that went to Harlem. We could say the same thing about Baltimore. We could say the same thing. So you want to start writing the history of racism, boy, just the opposite of the ridiculous Marxist cover-up that they give you. What I'm describing to you has a lot to do with the fact that every weekend in Chicago, young black kids are killed for no reason, and not a damn thing is done about it. What we're talking about right now, I'm looking at right now. Well, that gets us a little off the point. Anybody have any questions?
No.
About a very, very unbelievable weekend and Iran's latest targets. They arrested a 33-year-old. They arrested a 33-year-old artist today for having written a song about Masha Amini, who was the young lady who was killed in 2022 because she had a little bit of hair coming out from her hijab. So today he wrote a song about it, beautiful song that became quite popular. I think he's on his way to getting killed by the government that is supported by Barack Obama and Joe Biden. Barack Obama gave that government cash. That's like the kind of transaction between drug dealers. I don't know where he learned that. Maybe in Chicago. I mean, governments do it by wire transfer. Drug dealers, terrorists. Gee, I wonder when they asked him for hundreds of millions in cash to be brought in the middle of the night by an aircraft and not tell anybody. You think he might have gotten a hint that they were going to use it for terrorism? You think it might have occurred to him that they could be using this for terrorism, and that's why they wanted the cash? You think Barack's nah? Barack's a good guy. He's not a crook. He wanted to be nice. They wanted cash. He gave him 222 million in cash.
According to some people, he's the best president we ever had.
According to Iran,
Of course. Well,
the Ayatollah says he's better than Biden because he gave him cash. Biden gives him wires. He got it takes him a little while to convert it into cash.
Iran and Chris Matthews, they both love Obama.
Well, that's why Chris Matthews had to go off the air. That tingle in the you didn't know what it did to his leg. Created tremendous damage to the veins and the stuff. You get a tingle like that in your leg, you think it's okay, but he's not a young man. I mean, I like Chris. I don't want anything to happen to him, but that tingle, he has to rest his leg now and he can't go on the air because if he hears about Obama, he gets like a rekindling of the kindling, and it could kill him.
And unlike Chris,
so he has to be in a place where Obama's name is not mentioned, otherwise his leg will start tingling, and it could tingle to death.
And unlike Chris Matthews, you want to be like Mayor Rudy Giuliani, and you want to take your balance of nature. Balance of nature. And now I cannot confirm whether or not Chris Matthews is taking it, but that's besides the point. Mayor Rudy Giuliani takes it.
I think
that's reason enough.
I think balance of nature would could work on an Obama tingle. I think you have to take a lot though. I think you'd have to take like 4 a.m.
Obama tingle.
And then if you got the tingle, well, personally, just in case you get the tingle, and this is what Matthews didn't do, which cost him his career. Immediately, he should have gone to the emergency room, and they would have, like they do acupuncture, Rob. They had to put. I'll do it for him next time. You just put these pins in. You put lots of pins in, and you make the tingle go away, and possibly it won't happen again. I wonder what happens when he hears Trump. He probably gets something, but it is a tingle. I wonder what.
That promo code Rudy.
Also, what you'd really have to know. It's really unfair of me to do this, not knowing the scientific background of this. I mean, like, did Matthews suffer from leg tingles in the past? Were there other leg? Tomorrow, we're going to do an America's Mayor Confidential on the Chris Matthews leg tingle. And the derivation of it, does it continue? And is it the reason he had to retire? Because of the danger to his health of too much tingling every time.
This tingle sounds like an orgasm. Can we say that on here?
I have to tell you.
No, but the real question, I've heard that if you have tingles, you can't have orgasms.
Sounds like this sounds like he has an orgasm when Obama speaks.
Yeah, but
I felt this.
But you can't have.
It was a thrill.
You can't. I got it now. Once the tingle starts, that's your orgasm. You can have no other orgasm. That's it. That's it. That's it. How do you describe that tingle? Let's hear it. Maybe if we get the details, we can diagnose it better.
So this is Chris Matthews. This was in 2008.
That's a long time ago. That's a long time to have a tingle like that.
This is from 2008, and it was on primary coverage. Primary coverage, I guess, District of Columbia. So
Oh,
Direct quote, verbatim.
just winning the District of Columbia caused this. Imagine when he won the election, he probably blew him up.
this is Chris Matthews following a speech from Barack Obama. I have to tell you, it's part of reporting this case, this election. The feeling most people get when they hear Barack Obama's speech. I felt this thrill going up my leg.
That's it.
I mean, I don't have that too often.
Oh
Oh
my
my lord.
That's the disease. Umtadurul. Umtadurul is a disease that happens when you become so excited it replaces an orgasm forever. You realize this guy has never had an orgasm since then?
Yeah. Well, he does say I don't have that too often.
His poor wife.
Chris, we can tell you what that was.
What
I think you get so excited there, buddy.
Let's put it this way. Most people didn't think you had it too often. You don't look like the kind of guy,
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
you don't look like it,
I felt this thrill going up my leg.
like Chris Matthews.
Obama has a habit of doing that.
Like Chris
I used to like it.
Ben, Mayor.
Well, they all did. I think he really went off the deep end because I don't think he's the kind of guy you can bribe. I really don't. I think he really had a tingle in his leg, the poor bastard.
Chris, I think you might just be gay. I mean,
Remember the other night when we played the old? Remember when
Maybe
we
he's
played
bi.
we played the old reporters who basically said Biden should never be president.
yeah, that was great. We got to play that
He's
clip.
finished. He can never be president.
Yeah.
He'll never be president. And you compare him to the ones now. Most of those were left wing
Yeah,
Reagan haters,
Right.
yeah. Those were
but
great.
they were intellectually honest men.
Right.
Well,
On that note,
Yeah.
on that note, I was going to ask you guys about Diddy Combs, but you know what?
oh,
You know what? I really don't give a shit
Yeah.
about him.
Nah.
well, let's do some more research. We should come with that tomorrow because it is a big.
They could go to
story.
jail.
Mayor, you know what? I will talk to our good friend Lauren Conlon tomorrow, and I will get more for you.
Is she around? Is she in New York or up in New Hampshire?
Tomorrow she can't. Maybe Wednesday. Maybe Wednesday we'll get her here. Yeah.
So do you guys think he's headed for jail?
Perhaps. Yes.
Know a little bit too much about too many people.
Maybe he'll hang himself.
He might be suicide himself.
Yes.
Like, he might get suicided like some
Yes.
other people we know.
Interesting picture seeing Biden there right next to Epstein's best friend
All right.
Yeah,
and the guy who gave cash to the terrorists. Wasn't that interesting?
very creepy.
Yeah.
Indeed.
That creeped
Well,
me out, I'm not gonna lie.
We want to thank you very, very much for listening in tonight. I think we had a very interesting show. I apologize for not having gotten completely to the bottom of Matthew's tingle, but we will. We'll consult the relevant doctors and spiritualists and see if we can find out what that's all about. But I do think, unfortunately and tragically for Chris, the more you tingle, the less you orgasm. That's what I think. And I understand now. It's quite a problem. He tingles all the time.
Obama.
No, he just tingles he tingles. He really just, you don't think you don't think Biden makes him tingle.
Biden doesn't even know where he is.
Oh, okay.
Biden makes nobody think.
Maybe that could cure him. Maybe listening to Biden could cure him.
The only thing that makes Biden tingle is preparation H on his hemorrhoids.
Now we're getting disgusting.
All right.
I am getting ready for the eclipse, so I'm going to finish early tonight and start reading up about my binoculars and my telescope and everything else, and trying to figure out about this moon and stuff.
Hey, babes.
And because we're going to cover it live.
And we're gonna hit that eclipse right during the 3 p.m. hour when the mayor is on his
These are going to go out.
WABC nationally syndicated radio show.
Tingle.
So it'll be like 100 years ago when all the biggest news events were covered on the radio, right? No TV. So, Mayor, you have to practice your descriptive storytelling
In the dark.
right? You're going to be telling this. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
In the dark. On the radio, though. You're describing it.
Half these reporters won't be able to do it because they're probably scared of the dark. They
It's important,
look
right?
like a bunch of sissies.
But you will be reporting on what's a largely visual event you're going to be reporting over the.
I
over
will
the
be
radio.
reporting on something I can't see.
But then
But no, you can't see it. The radio listeners can't see it.
I am here.
Nobody can see it.
I am here in the middle of the total eclipse, and what do I see? Gods.
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 Sangul.
We gotta say goodnight.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we'll be on all night being idiotic.
How do you say goodnight in Brooklyn?
You say, "Hey, good night. See you tomorrow."
You say
What
forget
about
about
you gonna be on tomorrow night? Huh?
it. You say that solar eclipse.
We
Forget
can-
about
We can do tomorrow night or what? Take care. God bless America. And a special prayer for all of our police officers
it. Amen.
and all of our law enforcement officers and poor firefighters who can't have flags to 9/11. And also, of course, particularly to the Diller family, beautiful family. God bless America. Is to bring to bear the principle of common sense and rational discussion to the issues of our day. America was created at a time of great turmoil, tremendous disagreements, anger, hatred. There was a book written in 1776 that guided much of the discipline of thinking that brought to us the discovery of our freedoms, of our God-given freedoms. It was Thomas Paine's Common Sense, written in 1776, one of the first American bestsellers, in which Thomas Paine explained, by rational principles, the reason why these small colonies felt the necessity to separate from the Kingdom of Great Britain and the King of England. He explained their inherent desire for liberty, for freedom, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, the ability to select the people who govern them. And he explained it in ways that were understandable to all the people, not just the elite. Because the desire for freedom is universal. The desire for freedom adheres in the human mind, and it is part of the human soul. This is exactly the time we should consult our history. Look at what we've done in the past and see if we can't use it to help us now. We understand that our founders created the greatest country in the history of the world, the greatest democracy, the freest country, a country that has taken more people out of poverty than any country ever. All of us are so fortunate to be Americans. But a great deal of the reason for America's constant ability to self-improve is because we're able to reason, we're able to talk, we're able to analyze.